Yo, what's going on, my brothers? In today's video, I am going to be discussing the concept of a deload week. Now, this is going to be a slightly different video to normal, as will be the rest of the videos for this week, because I'm actually taking a deload week myself. My body's totally fried, and I've decided that in order for me to continue progressing at a steady rate without causing any injury to myself, it is time for me to take a deload week. And as such, I thought, what better way to begin the week than by discussing the concept itself. For those of you who perhaps don't know what it is, why you should do it, and whether it's right for you. So I've made some notes here, and I'm going to be addressing three main talking points. Firstly, why do a deload week? Secondly, who should and who shouldn't do a deload week? And thirdly, how you can do a deload week. Now, this is coming from years of training myself, some impressive numbers, and also my sports science qualification that I have as well. So it's coming from, not only the theoretical standpoint, but also the practical, and I think you guys will benefit from it if you're unfamiliar with the concept already. So let's begin. Why would you do I made notes on my phone, by the way, just to make sure I don't miss anything off. Why would you do a deload week? That's the first question. Why do a deload week? I've identified 6 main reasons why somebody may be looking to do a deload week. Firstly is central nervous system breakdown. Now, if you're lifting heavy weights consistently for, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks, and your body feels tired, your numbers have started to decrease, you're not making as much progress as you once were, you've started to hit new plateaus, perhaps your central nervous system is actually frazzled. Your central nervous system, if I were to describe it as a metaphor, is the scaffolding that upholds the rest of your body. When you're lifting a heavy deadlift and you're pulling the weight, that's your central nervous system. When you're doing a heavy squat and you feel your core tense, your spinal erectors hold you upright, that is your central nervous system. You're drawing power from that. And as such, if you are doing that consistently, you're ultimately depleting the energy levels within your central nervous system. The consequence of this is reduced performance, as I said. So for instance, if you are hitting that plateau or your progress is slowing down, but it can also be an increased risk of injury. For example, last week I've uploaded a video where I did a deadlift. I was aiming to get a new deadlift PB. I got to 200 kilograms, and on the 200 kg attempt, I got it, but I noticed I pulled and my back kind of arched. Not too much, not so much that I injured myself, but so much that for the next couple of days it was incredibly sore. The reason being is that my central nervous system was fried. I knew it was going in, but I tried it anyway, and as I literally felt my back arch slightly, and then for about 3 days afterwards, I was unable to train in the way that I wanted to because I was injured. Not almost injured, I wasn't injured, but my central nervous system was so weak that it was unable to uphold myself as I performed the movement, and as such, I almost injured myself. So the first reason is central nervous system breakdown. Now the second reason is to prevent and overcome plateaus. Plateaus, yeah, I don't know how you say it, it's your choice. Plateau. If you're American, maybe, I don't know, it will depend. But to prevent and overcome plateaus. Now I've already mentioned the CNS, but actually, irrespective of whether your CNS is fried, you can just reach plateaus. It's absolutely normal. You can, let's say, be making great progress on your bench for 2 to 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden, boom, you hit 100 kg and you can't move past it. No matter how hard you try, you just can't get a new number. In this instance, you may think, surely taking time off training is adversely going to impact my ability to lift weights. But rather on the contrary, if you take a week off training, you're allowing your body to build up its energy reserves, you're giving your body time to rest and recover, and then when you come back into the gym in 1 week's time, you'll be fired up, ready to go, lift a new weight, you'll have newfound passion for the gym as well, and ultimately you'll push yourself beyond that plateau. So the second reason is if you're hitting a plateau. The third reason is to allow muscle and joint recovery. Now again, this is something that I myself have struggled with in the past. I've had tendinitis in my forearm, I've had tennis elbow in my elbow, and I've also torn my meniscus, all of which came at a consequence of ignoring early warning signs. To be honest, I felt my knee becoming a bit overly tight. It was becoming inflexible, and yet I continued to do deadlifts and squats, and one day I tore my meniscus. I felt tendonitis coming on in my forearm. I was doing hammer curls every day for around 3 months, doing a drop set of hammer curls, and I felt it coming on in my forearm, ignored it, boom, I got tendonitis. Tennis elbow. I was doing hundreds of pull-ups, and I think at around 160 pull-ups, this is in one gym session, I felt almost like a slight pull in my elbow, but rather than stop, I carried on to do 250, and boom. I woke up the next day, my elbow was absolutely fucked. I could barely pick up a bottle of milk because it was just agonising, excruciating pain, which then required me to take a month off. So ultimately, boys, if I had taken a deload week at any of these points, and let's say if it was my knee, if I'd have focused on just stretching out my knee rather than lifting heavy weights, if I'd have stopped training hammer curls and forearms for, let's say, 2 weeks, I would have reduced the tendonitis. And the tennis elbow, if I'd have stopped when it started to hurt, taken a couple of days off, ultimately I would not have had tennis elbow and subsequently had to take a month off. So the third reason is to allow muscle and joint recovery, which ultimately will prevent injury as well. The fourth reason is that the body can become too tightly wound. Now you'll know this is happening to you because if you're doing a lot of deadlifts or a lot of pull-ups, something like that, you may notice your back starts to tighten up and you start to walk around a little bit tighter almost. Perhaps you can't reach your arms behind your back, or, tuck your hands in behind your head. A variety of different things can indicate if this is necessary for you. If you're training so often, you're building that muscle up, but in doing so, you're preventing and restricting your movement. We've all seen videos of bodybuilders who can't scratch their own back, for example. Now this obviously isn't healthy. I don't need to explain to you guys why flexibility is important, but if you really want an explanation, very summarily, I will explain that the tighter your muscles become, the less range of motion you have. The less range of motion you have, the increase your risk of injury. And I'm not going to go into any more detail than that because that's a whole video in itself. But ultimately, guys, keep in mind that the tighter you become, the greater your risk of injury. It's pretty self-explanatory. And a deload week can help in this instance by affording you a whole week where all you have to do is stretch. Rather than doing your hours training or your 2 hours training, however long you take, you can spend that whole time doing 5 yoga poses. If you're getting super tight hamstrings, okay, and it's preventing you from doing, let's say, Romanian deadlifts properly, super tight hamstrings, you can't do Romanian deadlifts properly. If you took a week off and you sat on the floor and all you did for 1 hour was touch your toes and pull yourself forward, you're going to find that your hamstrings in a week's time are going to be so flexible, and that when you come then to perform the Romanian deadlift in the future, you will not feel any pain, it will be injury-free, and ultimately, taking that deload week will allow you to loosey-goosey yourself, loosen out those muscles, and ultimately prevent injury again, which is, I guess, the main point of deload week. The fifth reason is not really something physical, but rather it's mental. So we all know that sometimes you can go to the gym and get into a groove whereby you're simply going through the motions. This is common for many people. I've done it myself at some points in time, and sometimes just the thought of going to the gym can make you exhausted, fatigued. You lose that passion and that fire for lifting weights. Very common. I don't want to say that I have never experienced this myself. I have. Taking a deload week can give you that well-needed rest. If you normally go to the gym for 2 hours a day, you're a brave person if you do. I personally wouldn't, but if you go to the gym for 2 hours a day, you may find that you're just exhausted. Mentally exhausted, incapable of imagining going to the gym again, and as such, taking a week off in that instance to do some other hobbies, to try some other sports, could be the rest that you need mentally in order to fall back in love with the sport of weightlifting again, and then go back into the gym with a fresh outlook. That to me is something that I always recommend to people. If they say they're feeling tired of the gym, I just say stop. Stop for a week. It won't kill your gains. You're not going to decrease in size over the week. You may lose a pump, but then when you go back in a week's time, you'll benefit from the increased energy reserves and also the increased mental energy that will make you fall in love with lifting weights again. If you've ever taken the time off weightlifting for, let's say, injury before, you'll know the feeling of getting back into the gym. You'll know the love that you have for it once again. It's like a flame reignited. So that's the fifth reason. And the sixth reason is simply when you have exhausted your energy levels. For example, last year I ran a marathon. After that marathon, I did not lift any weights for a week. Before that, I was lifting weights every day and I was doing 4 runs a week. My body was absolutely fucked. So a week before the marathon, I took a deload. All I did for that week was 2 runs, 2 30-minute runs, just to make sure my legs stayed fresh. So that was a deload week, and then after the marathon, I took another deload week because I decided to myself, if I start trying to lift weights or do squats again after this marathon, I'm gonna hurt myself. I just came off the meniscus tear. I was just getting better again. My training was going well. The running was a part of that recovery, and what I didn't want to do was, at the moment where I'm at peak exhaustion, expect my body to perform in the gym because I knew it wasn't going to happen. So a deload week was used twice in a row. So I took a deload fortnight in that instance and it worked very well. So to summarise, the 6 reasons why you should do a deload week are central nervous system breakdown, to prevent and overcome plateaus, to allow muscle and joint recovery, when the body is becoming too tightly wound and you need to focus on stretching, when you are feeling mentally exhausted and fatigued, and when you have exhausted your physical energy levels. Those are the 6 reasons. Now, moving on to who should and who shouldn't take a deload week. I guess, and it's the easy way of summarising it is, who should take a deload week is anybody who satisfies any of the 6 points I just mentioned. If you are feeling any of those points, you should take a deload week. It won't kill your gains. It's a week off the gym, okay? If you're not blasting tren and you're not blasting test, the likelihood is you're a regular person who's going to need regular periods of rest. Human beings were not designed to go balls to the wall every day for hundreds of days on end. No, human beings will gather their food, they lift their weights, they build their shelter, and then they rest and recover for the whole winter. That's how humans evolved. You're not that different from your ancestors, boys, alright? So take a deload week if you need it. But I'm not encouraging everybody to take a deload week. In fact, I've put down here 2 particular people, or types of people, who should not take a deload week. Firstly, if you're new to the gym, i.e. you've been in the gym for under 6 months, the likelihood is, if you are this person, you don't need a deload week, you're just being lazy. Okay, you're just looking for an excuse to say, oh, I can take a week off, my body's fatigued, or oh, I'm going to injure myself, or oh, I'm mentally exhausted. You're not, okay? You've been going for 6 months. You're probably just about now getting used to doing the bench press correctly, doing the squats correctly. Maybe you do a lot of cycling in the gym. You're fine, okay? You're just sore, you're just tired. You do not need a deload week, okay? Yes, I'm talking to you, by the way. If there's somebody watching and you're beginning to think, oh, maybe it's talking about me. I am talking about you, okay? If you even think that applies to you, I'm talking to you, okay? You don't need a deload week, okay? You're just tired because your body's exercising for the first time. That's okay. That's a regular part of lifting weights. Keep going, brother, and you'll be fine. The second type of person is anybody training under 3 times per week. Now, the reason I say this, I'm not talking to you hardcore Mike Mensa bodybuilders out there. You probably know more than me, so I'm not talking to you guys, but if you are training under 3 times a week, let's say you go to the gym 3 days a week and you do a full body circuit, what are you taking the deload from? If you're training 3 times a week, the likelihood is you're not lifting at an intensity that justifies taking a deload week. That's the likelihood. Now, there may be outliers to this, but realistically, I don't think so. I think if you're training 3 days a week, you are very likely already getting enough rest during the other 4 days of the week that, why would you take a deload week when you're already to gain 4 days of rest? What I would recommend is that perhaps you try staggering these days, these training days. Let's say you train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Maybe try training, let's say if you're doing, for the argument's sake, push-pull legs. Let's say that's your split. And you just do it 1 day a week for each one. Maybe do push on one day, and then do legs. So let's say Monday, push, Tuesday, legs. Then take all the time off until Friday, and then you do pull. Then you give yourself 2 days of rest and 2 days of rest. And in those 2 days, that should be plenty of time to recover. Try mixing up your training if you're feeling exhausted and you're only training 3 days a week. The likelihood is you don't need a deload, you just need to focus better on your rest and recovery. And as such, perhaps try staggering your workouts in different ways. Or, try stretching on the other 4 days. Try doing yoga on the other 4 days. Swimming, hydrotherapy. Try doing other types of exercises that will assist you in actively recovering, rather than just sitting on the sofa with your back arched like this, eating Doritos on the other 4 days, because the likelihood is that's not going to help you any more than a deload week will. The whole point of the deload is to aid and assist your recovery, and if you're only training 3 days a week, you probably don't need that assistance. You've already got 4 days off. So those are the two types of people that I would say do not need a deload. If you're new to the gym, and if you're already training, or if you're only training, 3 days a week or less. But again, anybody else, you probably might need a deload week. But it will depend if you satisfy that criteria I just mentioned. Now, I guess the hardest part of a deload is not who should do it, not when you should do it, but it's how you do a deload week. That's the bit that most people struggle with. Now, I've identified 4 main ways to do a deload week. Totally depends on your training style. And what I've done is I've kind of associated each different type of deload week with a particular style of training in order to help you guys understand. So I've got here bodybuilding, strongman, powerlifting, okay? These are the 3 types, just for argument's sake. Let's say strongman is also weightlifting, like Olympic weightlifting. Now for each of these 3 different styles of training, I've got 3 different types of deload weeks you can do. Starting off with the weightlifters and the strongmen, and generally the people who are lifting extremely heavy weights that is extremely taxing on the joints, okay? If that is you, I'd recommend that you take an entire week off. If you're pushing your body balls to the wall every day with absolutely insane, inhuman weights, the likelihood is you're looking and considering taking a deload because you're feeling joint pain, you're feeling stiffness. And if that is you, then yeah, take the week off, bro. Okay, you and I both know you've probably been on holiday before and you haven't lost any gains over the holiday period. The deload won't kill you, but rather it will give you that time to rest and recover in a healthy way. So, if you're doing heavy weights, take a week off. The second criteria I'm going to discuss, the second type of training, is bodybuilding. Now, if you're doing bodybuilding, the type of deload week I would recommend for you is training with a lighter weight. The reason being that if you're doing bodybuilding, you're probably not lifting, you're probably lifting heavy weights compared to the average gym goer, but are you really lifting heavy weights like a strongman or a weightlifter? No, you're not. So, in that instance, I would recommend for bodybuilders to do lighter weights, the same style of training, but just drop the weight down. For instance, if you're a bodybuilder and you're doing, let's say, the bro split, probably not, most bodybuilders don't do that anymore, but if you're doing the bro split and it's chest day, rather than doing, your 120 kg bench for 5 reps, lower it down to 60 kg, and just do that for 5 reps. Focus on the pump, on the contraction, on the squeeze, rather than trying to, get the heavy weights and also the pump. Rather focus on simply the contraction, getting the motion in, getting the feeling going. Focus on that mind-muscle connection, and also focus on your smaller body parts that maybe you neglect normally. If you're a bodybuilder, you probably run out of time to train your rear delts appropriately. It's a fair comment to make. You know, they're a difficult muscle group to hit. You can only really hit them in one way. And as such, you might be lacking in that area. Or perhaps maybe you're lacking in calves. Maybe your calves aren't quite as big as you want them to be. Take your deload week to focus on these often neglected muscle groups. You still train if you're doing bodybuilding, but rather don't train in that heavy pump chasing style you normally would pursue, but just focus on these smaller muscle groups with a lighter weight and allow your body to rest. That's what I'd recommend for bodybuilders. So train with a lighter weight if you're a bodybuilder, and take the entire week off if you're doing heavy Olympic or strongman weightlifting. Now, the option number 3 is for all you powerlifters out there. Now, if you're doing powerlifting, I'd recommend that you train with less intensity for lower volumes. Now, what I mean by that is powerlifters tend to do, let's say, 3 reps in a row at a super heavy weight, or 5 reps in a row at a super heavy weight. Not quite the level of weight that a strongman or a weightlifter is doing. Well, it's comparable weight, but it's a different type of movement. Powerlifters do such restrictive movements. You know, they're generally confined to 3 exercises, being the bench, squat, and deadlift, whereas strong men are doing log presses, axle presses. You've got, you know, the stones, the Atlas stones. You've got the weightlifters who are doing clean and jerk, and all these things that are incredibly taxing on the joints. Powerlifters aren't quite doing the same types of taxing movements, and as such, if I was a powerlifter and I wanted to take a deload week, I personally would train with less intensity for lower volume. So if my split was, let's use a beginner split, 5 by 5, you know, if my split was 5 by 5, then I was going to do 5 reps on the bench at 85% of my rep maximum, let's say, and I'll do 5 by 5, and now on my deload week, I'd lower that down to 3 by 5, 3 by 3. Whereby you're still getting the same volume of weight in, but you're just doing it at a lower intensity with a lower volume, and as such you're allowing your body to recover. Because powerlifters normally need to maintain a pretty high weight at all times when they're lifting. And as such, that's what I would do if I was powerlifting. I'm sure some of you guys will let me know that you have different thoughts in the comments. Now, it's worth mentioning that what I've said is what I personally think. Some of you may have different opinions, you know, you can disagree. But generally, if you're doing powerlifting, stick with the same weight, but do it a bit less intensely. If you're doing bodybuilding, drop the weight, carry on doing the same movements, but just focus on the mind-muscle connection and training those often neglected muscle groups. And if you're doing weightlifting or strongman, take a fucking break, guys, alright? You're lifting a lot of weight, and you're lifting it very often, I know you are, so just calm down. Take a week off, you know you won't lose your strength. And in fact, as I've said, you might even come back with higher weights after the week off. Now, that's what you should do with those different types of training. But there's a 4th option, and this is applicable to everybody. During that week off, why not do a new hobby? Why not try out a new sport? If you're a powerlifter, a strong man, or a bodybuilder, why not try swimming? I'm riding a bike. This is all I'm going to be doing all week. Look at me, I'm just sitting here. How long have I been going now? Give me 1 sec. I've been on here now for 40 minutes. I'm just sitting here cycling for 40 minutes, talking to you guys, doing Spanish, reading books. Try pursuing a new hobby. Go on and run. If you're a strong man, you probably need it. No offense, guys, alright? But just go on a run. You know, go and do something new. Play football, play air hockey, read a book, do some yoga. I always recommend yoga to everybody. It's a brilliant thing to do. Try doing something new to refresh your body, to shake up your style of training. I'm not saying you should become a hybrid athlete or anything. I'm just saying take a bit of time off the regular grind and just go and try something new. Maybe you can do that during the deload week. You know, if I was back at home and I'm taking a deload week, you can believe I'm going to go play football with my friends. You know, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go BMXing with my little brother. I'm going to do different types of sports that will allow me to continue training, but just training in a new way. You know, no sport, no one particular style of training is better than another. No particular sport is better than another. And as long as you're doing something fun, mentally, and also physically enjoyable and pleasurable, who cares what you do? Just go and try something new. So that's something that I'd recommend as well. If you wanted to take a deload week, but you didn't want to do one of those bodybuilding, powerlifting, or strongman splits that I previously mentioned, then just ignore all that and go and try a new sport. You know, you might actually enjoy it. So yeah, the 4 ways that you can do a deload week are taking the entire week off, particularly if you're a strongman, training with a lighter weight, particularly if you do bodybuilding, training with less intensity for lower volume if you do powerlifting, or training a different sport altogether, and this is applicable to everybody. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I have to say. I just wanted to make a video really expressing what you could be doing if you want to do a deload week, because I'm doing a deload week myself, and what I'm personally doing is I'm going to continue exercising, but I'm going to be doing different types of exercises. I'm going to be doing cycling a lot, running a lot, yoga a lot. The reason being that my elbow joints are feeling particularly fatigued. My CNS is fried, and so really what I need is no heavy weights, especially no heavy weights on the upper body. So that's what I'm doing for the week. Now, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm going to end it there, and I'll see you all tomorrow. It'll likely be another talking video because I'm not going to be training. I'll be training, but not the regular content. So if you enjoyed it, let me know. If you have any different thoughts or comments, let me know, because ultimately a deload week is totally personal to you. You know, I've just said what I'm going to be doing during this week. Some of you might like to do other things, but I generally believe that the things I've just mentioned are absolutely true and relevant, but that's just based on my own personal experience, and you obviously will have a different one to me. So yeah, if your opinion differs, let me know in the comments. But aside from that, I've got nothing else to say. So thank you very much for watching, boys, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Hasta mañana, mis hermanos. Adios.